right, guys, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Designated Players podcast. Before we get started and I introduce a special guest designated player for today, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who tuned in so far. We've had 63 downloads on Buzzsprout so far. We've got 4 subscribers on YouTube with a total of, I believe, 56 total views so far, and we only started really posting clips and such over the past few days, so that's awesome. And then we've also been added to a few other spots, and we're going to talk about that later, where you can view us. But welcome back. Yeah, we're really excited to do this again. I thought we had we had a lot of fun last week. I'm joined again with Adam, and we also have a special guest because Connor couldn't make it this week, so I'll let him introduce himself.
What's up? Jonathan Kasman. I'm a Timbers and NYCFC fan. Very random 2 teams.
When did you start following? How long ago?
Always grew up watching. Never supported the Red Bulls like Andrew and Adam. I did like Honoré at one point, but once I went to college, I was looking to follow MLS, and Timbers were brand new at the point, and seemed like a great team until NYCFC finally came to New York, where I went to their home opener and fell in love with them. So as long as the 2 teams don't play each other, I'm always good.
I heard they were playing in Jersey though.
Yeah.
Had to get that one in.
When you fell in love with them, were you in the outfield on the first base or third base side, or right behind home plate?
I was actually right by the right field foul pole, but at least we weren't banging trash cans like the Astros.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, so before we get started, let's talk scarf of the week. Kaz, what are you rocking today?
I got a Timbers scarf. Always have to support boys in green and gold, but chose this over the Chicken Buckets NYCFC scarf.
Yeah, it's probably a good shout on this podcast for sure. Adam, what do you got going?
Not tribute because he's obviously not dead, but in honor of his unfortunate move to LAFC, I decided to rock the Bradley Wright Phillips Newark Red Bull scarf. He will be dearly, dearly missed by all of us.
Yeah, man, I saw that signing, and I think we talked about it on Twitter a little bit, but I hope he comes back and smashes us. How do you let a guy who scored that many goals for your club go with nothing more than a minute-long tribute video? That's awful.
Yeah, I mean, are we surprised at this point? We've let, I don't know how many starters go.
Yeah, I know, it was mental. I, for one, in honor of having 3 Comac Soccer League vets on the podcast, I'm rocking a nice CSL scarf that I picked up from the Burr house that we do all of our work in. So, figure that'd be a good time to break this one out.
Very nice.
Throwback.
Hell yeah!
Mm-hmm.
I love this one. This is one of my favorites that I have. I remember I went to go buy it, I think from Mama Kaz, and I was asking how much does it cost, and she just took it and gave it to me, and I walked away.
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
Shout out Mama Kaz. And then I guess unless anybody's got any other cool Comac Soccer League stories, that'll take forever. We can jump right into this.
No, we'll be here all night.
Yeah, it takes too much time for that.
All right, so today's episode, we're going through transfer reactions. Just going to go through every team outside of the 2 new ones that we were talking about before. Actually, why don't we start with Inter Miami finally getting Pizarro?
Is that official?
I believe it just became official today or yesterday.
Okay, I saw he had flown over to Miami, but hadn't seen an official announcement yet.
All right, I heard that there was an interview with Pizarro saying that the reason why he's coming is because Beckham went and talked to him personally. So I figured that was as good as done.
It's one way to do it.
It's definitely the best way to probably get people to join.
Yeah, right. David Beckham just calls you up and, hey, why don't you come play for me?
I mean, supposedly Neymar's got our pre-contract.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I saw that. I asked him to play here. No, you didn't.
I'm all for Neymar playing in Miami.
You could also add Griezmann and Suarez and whoever else you want to that list.
Right,
True.
we had that conversation last week about how they've been linked to everybody and nobody's going to come. But yeah, so we're going to go through transfer reactions this week. Basically the biggest loss and the biggest addition on each team. Real quick, just talk about who came in, who came out, and why. who won, who lost the transfer market, and then we're going to look into the CCL matchups coming up. We got the away leg coming up next Tuesday, and we're going to go ahead and talk about that and see. You'll make some predictions, make our first predictions on the podcast, which is going to be a weekly thing from now on, and that's really exciting. I'm excited for that to show how good I am at this. And, yeah, so let's get started. Let's start with alphabetically. Let's go with Atlanta United. What do we think? I'll go to Adam here. Adam, who do you think is the biggest in and the biggest out?
Biggest in, I said Brooks Lennon. I could have gone for the international bunch of South American guys they brought in, but I think with the player they lost, which I'll talk about in a minute, I think he fits in pretty nicely. He's 22. I mean, he could ideally be their right back for the next, I don't know, 10, 11 years. Didn't have a terrible stat-wise at RSL. 3 goals, 7 assists in about 90 games. But I think once he adjusts, he'll be just bombing down that right wing. Just like the player I'm about to talk about, Julian Gressel. How on earth they let him go to DC is unbelievable.
Yep.
I was shocked when I saw this was official. This was a guy who fit that system just perfectly. I mean, his link-up play with Martinez sometimes was scary. And now, without Rooney at DC, he's going to be looking at a Kamara. I mean, it's a kind of a downgrade.
Yeah, just a little bit, right? So for me, I also for the longest time I had Lennon up there too. I thought he was going to fit in perfectly. He was a great addition. And then I saw a clip of this Rossetto guy that they just brought in.
Mm-hmm.
He is Miggy 2.0. He's Almiron 2.0. Everything he does looks exactly like what Almiron did, and they've been looking for that since he left. And Pity Martinez has not filled that role. So I'm going to say he's the biggest in for them right now because he is going to be a difference maker. I watched 30 seconds of his clips, and he was just unreal. Again, it was against the USL side, and it wasn't anything to write home about in terms of competition. But I was really impressed. Just the way he plays is something that I think is going to be really big for them going into next season. And I also had Gressel in one of the loss as an honorable mention. Likewise with LGP, I think he was another big piece to lose. But to me, the biggest piece that you lose right here is Darlington Nagby. Darlington Nagby was a guy who made everything click. He was easily one of the top 3 box-to-box midfielders. You could easily say he was the box-to-box midfielder. He was the most underrated player maybe over the past 2 years because he just did all of the best work. And I know Portland hurt a lot when he left. And I think Columbus picked up a real good, and with Caleb Porter, I think he might be best 11 next year, just strictly based off of now being able to be appreciated in a system like Columbus.
Yeah, when Nagby left Portland, that was miserable for Timbers. It was the entire midfield changed. I mean, the focus obviously went to Valeri, but it obviously changed everything when he left. So now going to Columbus, which would be a lot different for him. I mean, he isn't the goal scorer that everyone wants him to be, or everyone like kind of expected a little bit when he came in, but he is still a solid midfielder that maybe will bring Columbus back to the playoffs.
Yeah, no, for sure. And he that's exactly what it was. He was a link-up guy. He did the dirty work on the defensive end. He could get forward with the ball, without the ball, make things happen. And that is something that I think you're going to see a lot that they are going to miss next year. Because you've got Remedy, who's not as mobile in the defensive side, and you've got this Rossetto guy who might do a lot of work on the attacking side, but it's the guy who combines the two that they're going to miss, and the transition play might be a little different, and I think that's going to be because Nagby won't be there. Moving into Chicago.
I'm going first again.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you go first for this 4, and then I'll take over for the next 4. And
Sounds good.
Like that.
All right, so Chicago. I went back and forth with who their biggest loss was. And my opinion, I settled for Nico Gaitan. I
Okay.
know that's probably not what you were thinking. I know we'll get to yours in a minute,
You
but
already know what mine is.
I do. There was a point last season, and fantasy numbers obviously don't always translate to on-field performances, but there was a period last season where he put up numbers. He was unplayable at times, and I think that offense just looks, I don't want to say mediocre now, but definitely lost a lot of quality up there with him. And then addition, I put Robert Barrick. Um, Decent numbers playing in Austria and in France, but I think having him alongside CJ Sapong, the issue with me is just getting them the ball because they usually play a 4-2-3-1 and they're three across the midfield. So Gaitan, Katai, and Schweinsteiger are all gone. So how do we get them the ball now?
Yeah, no, big facts there, and that was kind of what I meant, or what I put for my loss section was,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that you can put into this category. Alexander Katai was one of their best attackers. Um, Gaitan again, like you mentioned before, put up numbers. Bastian Schweinsteiger, just the name Bastian Schweinsteiger, is a big loss. And like you said, you already know what mine is, but my biggest loss is Dax McCarty. Any team that loses Dax McCarty is, no matter who they bring in, is automatically worse off. He was a captain. He was the heart of your midfield. And the reason why I went with him over other players, they don't have a true replacement lined up. At least not since I was looking at this a few days ago. I haven't seen them bring anybody who's going to say, okay, I can replace Dax McCarty, no problem whatsoever. They had Mo Adams in their kind of like ranks when he was younger, um, and he was supposed to be the next guy, and he's off to Atlanta. So I'm not sure what they're going to do in that center mid spot. I mean, they still have time to sign somebody. Um, I don't know if that'll happen, but that's obviously my biggest loss. And I said Robert Barrick is the biggest addition for them. If he's gonna want to go ahead and make this team relevant again, he's going to need to put up fantastic numbers, and I'm talking Nikolic Golden Boot winning season numbers. Like, he's going to have to be the guy that people cannot take out of their fantasy teams, that people look at and are like, I don't know how to stop him. Everything he does goes in the net. And if he can't do that, you're right, because they lost so much around him, they're going to have another tough year. And we're not doing Eastern predictions this year, but I have a feeling they're going to be missing out on that playoff spot yet again.
Yeah. All right. Colorado.
Yeah, we can move on there. Unless, Kaz, you got anything to add on Chicago?
Uh, I mean, only real other people that you guys haven't mentioned. Jonathan Bornstein returning back to the MLS would be interesting. See if he could fit back in and help maybe in the back line. And they added Bobby Shuttlesworth from Minnesota. But
Hmm. Yeah.
overall, the Fire I don't think are going to be too exciting to watch with
Yeah.
returning back to Soldier Field and their new unis.
Yeah, God, that badge is awful. The kit is awful. Everything about it is awful, and nobody bats an eye. It's
No,
it's it's so sad.
everyone's
Uh,
willing to admit it. It's bad.
yep.
All right. Colorado. All right. Ready?
Yep.
So Colorado. I spoke about this team last week.
You're so hyped.
If I wasn't already on the Inter Miami bandwagon this season, I would 100% be driving the Colorado bus. I mean, bringing in Aaron Trusty, I said it again last week, but this back five of Trusty, Rosenberry, Abubakar, Drew Moore with Clint Irwin behind them, on paper, should be just clean sheets all over the place, especially when they're playing at home. Um, I think the two midfields in front of them with Kellen Acosta and Jack Price, just solid defensively, and then they should have enough talent with the additions they brought in going forward to just be, again, top three in the West. Bold prediction. I'll say it again. And then for the same reason that Andrew explained Dax leaving Columbus, I said Tim Howard. I said that leadership presence is something that can't really be replicated.
Yeah. When I was looking at this stuff, it got me kind of excited based off of after you said top three in the West because they didn't have a lot of bad losses
No.
when you look at the transfers out, right? But I had Tim Howard as one of my biggest losses because Tim Howard is a big name. People are going to come want to see leader, tons of experience, U.S. men's national team, best goalkeeper in the history of the world. Yes, we get it. However, Irwin is a fantastic replacement. He was great in Toronto, and great everywhere he's been so far. So I'm not worried about their back line at all. And I'm excited to see this guy Namley, their new DP signing. And I don't know if I mentioned it before, but again, with all the pieces that they're starting to bring together, you got Abubakar Trusty, Rosenberry, you got Acosta in the midfield, and Kamara up top with John Lewis on the wing. You got a ton of really good talent all over the place. I think he's that last piece to put everything together. And again, the more that you say top three in the West, the more I kind of start to smile and think maybe.
LAFC, we're coming for you.
Into Columbus.
Yeah, into Columbus. Any guesses on who I said was the biggest addition this
Oh,
season?
some guy
And
with a Z?
not some guy with a Z.
Really?
I said it.
Darlington.
No.
Uh,
Come
Boo.
on. Andrew, favorite player of ours.
Oh my God. No.
Derek
No.
Etienne Jr. This is his
No.
time.
No.
Yep. This, so looking over it as we kind of went through each team getting ready for this episode, I mean, this might be the scariest midfield, at least definitely in the East, if not in the entire MLS. Derek Etienne Jr. on the wing with Pedro Santos, Nagby, Artur, and Zelarayan should be okay. I mean, granted, they have Zardes in front of them, and we all know how I feel about that.
Golden Boot.
Um, Something like that, according to Connor. Um, but I think that he wins that starting spot at right wing. He finally gets a full kind of preseason where this should be his new home. He's done being sporadic appearance for the Red Bulls, loaned out to Cincinnati where I don't want to play, and I think he comes into this Columbus team and says, "All right, this is where I show what I can do." Um, and then outgoing, I said Will Trapp for just that kind of hole in the midfield, similar to a Nagby. Just his breakup play alongside Artur at times was very solid. But I think bringing in Nagby should just fill that hole pretty nicely.
Nice. All right. I'm gonna go ahead off of what you just said and start talking a little bit about why you're wrong. Derek Etienne couldn't get a game over Alex Mouille. That wasn't because Chris Armas loved Alex Mouille. It's because he didn't have what it took to get there. And I love DEJ7. I loved what he did, and I told you he scored my favorite goal of all time.
Yes.
But I don't think he breaks through, and I think he'll get more time than he did at Red Bull. I don't think he's going to be a breakout player. And that midfield, Pedro Santos always flops. He has been predicted to be one of the best players in the league for like the second he stepped off the plane. He was supposed to be one of the best guys that they ever signed, and I don't think he scored more than 10 goals ever. Um, Nagby's going to be good for them. Artur doesn't do anything for me. He's just a normal number six. He's no Chara or Ozzy Alonso. He's just a six, right? And Zellerine, I'm hoping he he brings a really good style of play for Columbus because, as Connor mentioned, if he turns into the guy Higuain was, then Zardes is winning Golden Boot. Like there's no question because if he can pull passes, it's going to be like Henri or Kleshtin feeding BWP. Like it's just going to be all day. Um, that being said, my biggest loss was Higuain, and for the reason that you saw last year, where they didn't, because of his injury, his season-ending injuries, they didn't have a lot of attacking numbers. They didn't have a lot of exciting play going forward. Trap was my honorable mention for the exact reason you said. And my biggest addition was Nagby, right? We talked about it with Atlanta, best box to box guy in the league, something they've been missing for a while. And you combine his defensive work rate, again, if you want to throw Artur in there as well. Artur wins the ball, Nagby picks it up, Springs, Santos, Zelarayan, Zardes, or DEJ7.
Yeah,
They'll be exciting. I think they've had a real good window. Um, and I'm kind of hoping they do well, but not like
not too well.
really well. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm surprised neither of you brought up Stefan transfer, considering he did finish the year.
Yeah,
It's a good shout, and I looked at it, but it was kind of like he was gone
Since it was
halfway through,
announced, yeah.
so I kind of was like, they felt that they addressed it. Um, Rune's going to be fine. Um,
That's fair. I just feel like as both of our teams have played Columbus in the last couple of years in the playoffs, he was one of the main reasons for that.
yeah.
And
yep.
I mean, you're right, Andrew. It felt since he was announced in July or whenever it was that he was out for a while. But I mean, he is kind of the heart of that back line. If they did replace him, but we'll see if he could actually get replaced.
No, for sure. He's definitely one of those guys who is quote unquote irreplaceable just because of how good he was at times. Um, I don't think they took a massive step down with Rune, but you're right. He's kind of like a Tyler Adams, where you'll have a ton of people like him, but he'll never be truly replaced.
It's a good point.
Yeah. So we'll move on to good old Scum and DC United. And because we all know what their biggest transfer in was, I'll start with the transfer out, and that's Lucha Acosta. Didn't get a lot of time over last year because he fell out of favor with Olsen. But he was easily one of the best attacking options in MLS over the past few years. That's no question. Some of the stuff he did was just downright disrespectful to players. He was really really good, and you take a guy who had a multi-million dollar transfer fee paid by PSG a few years back. I don't know how that fell through, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and you go ahead and lose him to, I think he went to Mexico. That's tough. And obviously, the biggest transfer in, we talked about it already, was Gressel. How they pulled this off was beyond me. I have no idea how Atlanta let him go. Um, but him and Edison Flores in the midfield now make DC maybe a top three contender in the East. But we are hoping that the probable happens and Ben Olsen screws this up too. So not worried about that.
Definitely. I knew you were going to say Acosta, so that's why I chose Wayne Rooney. I mean, it's Wayne Rooney.
Yeah,
You can't not put him as the biggest loss.
I guess.
I just think back, obviously, all the goals and, yes, a few red cards here and there, but I just remember that last-ditch slide tackle and assist against Orlando. I mean, I don't know how old, has done everything there is to do in the game, and he's thrown himself, given 100% in a game that's DC Orlando. I mean,
Fair.
you know, and
That was,
then
that was one of his first games off the plane, right? Wasn't
It
it?
was
He
a,
was
it was
there
a
right,
second a second game, I believe.
yeah, exactly. So he's in. He's got a little bit of energy. He makes that tackle. He's done for 3 years. Good for him.
no, he's player manager now at Daru County.
No, I know.
He's his own boss now.
Yeah, I know. Can you imagine? I heard he was already in arguments with some of the players because they didn't pay him.
That doesn't surprise me. He's not Frank Lampard.
Yeah. The only person that the only thing some people remember that tackle. I remember his elbow to Caceres. That's all I remember.
Yes.
But
I was at that game.
Yeah.
were you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then, but going off Adam with the Rooney tackle, like with living in the DC area, like, and they just built a stadium when Rooney came. And I mean, they were in last place. Without Rooney, to me, honestly, their stadium would have failed. And like, if you go to Audi Field now, you only see Rooney shirts and jerseys. So I'm kind of scared to go to a game this year and hopefully see a transition in jerseys and people. And like, I was at Audi Field last week for the XFL game, and like, he's still on a billboard outside the stadium.
Of course he
Wow.
is.
So
Wow,
like,
that's awesome.
it's cool, but at the same point, it's like, will people still buy in? Yes, Flores and Gressel are all great signings, but they're not the name that possibly may be needed for fans to keep showing up to DC United games.
Right. And I brought this up to, I believe it was Connor when he was first trying to understand like how to rebuild a team like this. And they almost went exactly as to the way I said it was you start by signing a big name player. And that was obviously Rooney, whether he can play or not. And he ended up coming in and being really good. For however long he was here, he was good. He gave what he could up until maybe his last year. People can argue maybe he stopped caring a little bit. Um, but you start by that, and then if you can keep him for long enough, or keep the big names coming for long enough, then you bring fans in based off of the desire to watch you play. Because when they watch those big names play, they get attached to the team at that point. And then when those big names leave, then you can keep coming in with the Floreses and the Gressels and the not big names. Um, but they're there for the team and they're excited for these players just to come in and keep the team going. Now the question is, did they keep Rooney long enough for that to happen? And I'm not sure if they did.
Yeah, that's the concern because I mean, Audi Field's a beautiful stadium. It holds 20,000 people, and I mean, it's in a good spot in DC. It's across the street from Nats Park.
Right.
But it's like the average soccer fan, I feel like they knew the name Wayne Rooney, especially like being in Virginia. Like DC United's always been here for the last 25 years, but it's like people knew Wayne Rooney. They would go to see Wayne Rooney. I don't know if they're necessarily just going to buy a random ticket on like a Saturday when they have nothing to do to see other people that they may not know, unfortunately, at this point.
Right, right, and that's why they were linked to Ozil forever. It was for that same reason,
Yeah.
to try and keep people coming. And
And with the Nats winning the World Series last year, it's like if people have the choice and the stadiums are next to each other, the Nats are the big draw right now.
right,
And even
right,
the Capitals are the first in NHL. People are going to choose to go to a Capitals game until May or June over going to these first couple months.
right. Yeah, no, that's definitely an issue with the way that this is set out. And listen, I hate DC as much as the next guy, and I don't care if they fail or not. But as a general soccer enthusiast, yeah, that's not a good thing to see.
No, not at all.
Right. So why don't we move on to the great FCC?
Do we have to?
The single worst team in MLS last year, and they needed to make some big changes, and they did. Um, I went with their biggest new addition as Locadia, big name European experience. Maybe not big name, but European experience, more so than Kubo did. I think Locadia is going to bring something more than Kubo will, but I think they'll both just work really well together. And let's be honest, anything is better than what Adi did last year. What do you have, like 1 goal, 2 assists, or something like that? That was their
Yeah.
biggest. That was their big DP striker. Yeah, no, that's not going to be an issue. And again, they didn't lose. Again, you can't lose a lot from a team like that and see somebody is like, oh wow, I can't believe he's gone. But I think Ledesma is one of the bigger losses from them. They're one of their best players from the USL days, and he didn't get a lot of chance to contribute. And I was hoping that this year, with all the new players they brought in, he'd be able to kind of revive what he was doing, and bring back that level of play. But here we are, and he will not be here.
True. I obviously also said Locadia and biggest outgoing, and I heard almost nothing about this. I heard there was no announcement that I saw. There was no kind of thank you message. Was Leonardo Bertone.
Yeah,
I remember him coming in as their first DP. He scored their first goal off this crazy volley. And he's just disappeared. I mean, that surprised me. I don't understand how he was supposed to be their kind of welcome to MLS jewel in the crown. Obviously, they only won I don't know, 6 games last season, so didn't necessarily do much. But if you looked at what was around him, I figured he was kind of their centerpiece that they could build off of. But I don't think they had any sort of long-term plan in place. I think he just kind of came in, they got their team up and running, and then he said, "All right, I'm out of here."
Yeah, no, for sure, and that's like I said, they really they couldn't have done anything much worse than they did last year. So, um, let's see what they can do with that. But I guess because you can't move on to something like that. So let's go ahead and talk FC Dallas because there's not much more to say on the FCC front. Another team without a lot of losses, but I think Christian Coleman was one of their bigger ones, and they're supposed to be the 15 goal, 5 assist guy when he first came in like a few years back, and nothing really happened. So that was really underwhelming, and so that'll be my pick. And then Hara, the guy they just brought in, is supposed to be what Coleman's supposed to be. So let's see how that goes.
Yeah, they didn't do too much so far in terms of in or out. Thiago Santos, that they brought in from Brazil, I think pretty much should complete their midfield. I mean, him with a Paxton Pomacall and a who's the other one? Ferreira's, I think the third midfield they use with Barrios, Andrasic, now Fafa Pico. I think Dallas is looking pretty solid.
Yeah, no, I think FC Dallas looks relatively solid. It's just a matter of can the guys that they brought in last year, the youth guys that they brought in last year, can they step up and be the next, take the next step in what they're doing? They were really young last year, and a lot of the guys, I mean, Ja'Cory Hayes, a lot of those um, midfielders were really young. So let's see if they can make that next step.
Yeah. Houston. All right. My vision for Houston is they play a 3-2-5
Jesus Christ.
with all right. Well, if you look at who they have, their front five could potentially be Mara Manotas, Memo Rodriguez, Alberto Elise, Tommy McNamara. Not really, just
Tommy.
that's just for literally just said that just for Kasman and Darwin Quintero. This could be a team that wins every game 5-4 and doesn't keep a clean sheet the entire year. And I think they'd be okay with that.
Yeah, every listen, a win's a win, whether it's 1-0, it's 3-0, or it's 5-4, right? So I
Exactly.
I wouldn't care if I'm winning that way.
The only loss that I could see was AJ De La Garza, but that's not a huge loss.
Yeah, no, I thought they had another good team, another team that didn't lose a lot. Um, Tricky Bees, Demarcus Beasley, losing a legend like that hurts Houston, but it also hurts every USMNT supporter and follower. So, good career, Tricky Bees. Thanks for all the fun, and enjoy retirement, I guess. Um, Even though I wanted you to play until you were 75, like it seemed like you were going to, but
Mm-hmm.
so here's the deal with Quintero. I put them as the biggest transfer in, if with an asterisk next to it, because I've heard rumors they're going to try playing him on the wing.
Oh no, no,
If
no, no,
if
no.
they play him on the wing, it is going to be the biggest waste of money I've ever seen in my life. So if they
Agreed.
use him correctly, he'll be a great addition. We know what he did with the Loons, the greatest team in the West. But can he do it again on a 100-degree day in Texas? That's the question. Um, I think he'll be fine. I'm excited to see him fit into that style of play. A little bit different than in Minnesota, but um, again, I'm excited to see what he can do if he's playing up top next to Manotas and not on the wing where big old Tommy Mack should be.
I'm telling you, 4-2-4 with Darwin and Manotas up top, with Elise and I guess McNamara on the wing, Memo behind them, and they just win every game like 10-9. Just you know,
Yeah,
everyone combines for 30 plus goals, and we're good.
yeah, something like that.
I think that's how that works.
Sounds
Yeah.
great in a FIFA standpoint, Adam.
I was just about to say that.
Uh, I don't know if we even need to talk about the Galaxy. We already know.
No, he
Biggest
doesn't.
loss is Zlatan. Biggest addition is Chicharito next.
False.
What? Stop it.
I said it last week. He is
Stop.
not gonna do as well as people think he is. I'm not saying he's gonna do poorly. I'm just saying he was brought in to replace Zlatan, and he is not Zlatan.
If you judge every transfer on who they're supposed to replace, then no, then half the big transfers aren't going to, nobody's going to care.
Agreed.
Nobody can fill
But
Zlatan's shoes, but that's the biggest transfer in. Who's their biggest transfer in? Please enlighten me.
obviously Chicharito. However, I said Emiliano Insua because
No.
hopefully, and I said hopefully, I didn't want to pick Chicharito. That was the obvious answer.
Oh,
Hopefully, he comes in and fixes this hot garbage of a back line, which I still think is just just god awful.
it's hot.
Like
It's hot garbage, no question.
it's bad.
This
Like
is
the
another team that'll win every game 5-4 if they have to.
no, they won't win. Um, no, but I said this last week. How many times last season when their defense was giving up goals left and right did Zlatan say, "Okay, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to take the ball and basically put the 10 of you on my back, and we're winning this game."
Yeah, yeah.
Chicharito doesn't have that mindset. He needs support around him, and he just doesn't have it. Yes, he has Christian Pavone, and that's about it. And Katai, I guess. But
I think Katai's gonna have a great year over there.
I do too. But
Yeah.
I'm not convinced.
All right, I'm gonna need to like keep a counter on every video we do from now on, and it's gonna be like a strike counter. And when you hit 3 strikes, you're kicked off the pod. And strikes include disrespecting the loons, disrespecting the goat that is Alex Mawil, and disrespecting Chicharito.
All right, well, I'll hit the Chicharito one by next week probably. So it's been nice knowing you guys.
All right, no, but listen, that's a fair point. I think it's going to be important to see if he can come in and make some good changes. I don't think he will. I think it'll still be hot garbage. I think Brian Rowe is going to be destroyed in that, or not Brian Rowe. David Bingham is going to be destroyed again. He'll make 1,100 saves and give up 1,400 goals.
Sounds
But
about right.
but yeah, listen, it's all going to be focused on the attack. And what they're really going to hope for is one of those holding midfielders to be really good. Other than that, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because Shelvik's gone. They transferred him out to some like Swedish team.
Their back four is probably going to be some combination of Insua, Gonzalez, Felcher, and Steres. That
Jesus,
is horrendous.
that's awful. That just makes me sad. Hearing that makes me sad.
Yeah, it's going to be hopefully Bingham can make a save, loft the ball 80 yards to Katai and Chicharito and Pavone, and
Have
hopefully something
fun.
happens.
Yeah.
Hopefully something happens.
Oh God, I think this is going to be a good year for Leggett too. I think he's going to play a bigger role this year, and I think he'll
He
fill it pretty nicely.
he's going to have to.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, LAFC. I read this transfer, this outgoing transfer, and genuinely screamed out loud, "How did this happen? How on earth did Walker Zimmerman go to Nashville?"
Oh my God, I didn't update it, but I saw that too, and now I'm upset.
I don't understand. First
Like,
off, well done to
why?
Nashville. Why not? Well done to Nashville. First and foremost. Well, I mean, I don't know how you pulled it off. It was a ridiculous amount of money,
Yep.
but I mean, well done.
Yeah.
But I have to assume that based on everything we've seen with LAFC, they have someone they have their eye on to bring in.
hmm
They wouldn't have just let arguably one of the best center backs in the league since he's come in just go like that without having a backup.
No, no, for sure. And I mean, you saw it with Tyler Miller too, right? So, they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
So with the Tyler Miller one, I said bring in Kenneth Vermeer. Yes, is a good like for like kind of replacement in terms
hmm
of I think the experience he has will be basically seamless transition into that back line. But at 35, I don't think that's the long term solution. I think it's let's bring him in, figure out what we do for next season, and then we start over.
Perfect shout. Absolutely agree. That being said, I have Miller as the biggest loss and Vermeer as the biggest addition, just because they haven't added a ton of players. I mean, that Cifuentes guy could be all right, But I think Vermeer is the bigger question mark because he's filling in for a guy who was one of the best goalkeepers last year in the league. So he's gonna have a spotlight on him like from the start. And if he doesn't fill those shoes, then it might go south real quick.
Yeah. An honorable
But
mention to Bradley Wright Phillips.
yes, yes, obviously, Wright Phillips is really the biggest addition, just because of who he is. But yeah, I didn't update this before the BWP and the Walker Zimmerman transfer. But yeah, Zimmerman's clearly the biggest loss. A U.S. men's national team level center back is hard to find.
I mean, Bradley playing up top if he stays healthy with Vela and Rossi is kind of gross.
Bro, Bradley will break the Golden Boot record, or yeah, the goal scoring record, and win the Golden Boot.
Probably.
Yeah,
I'm,
um,
I'm all for it.
absolutely, bro. If he goes off and succeeds when we couldn't even give him a chance, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we didn't choose to build around him either. That's the other big one.
It's because we let Derek go.
Yeah, okay, all right. Next, can't deal.
Minnesota, you can take this one.
Yes, go on the loons. Real easy here, right? Another real straight shot. Darwin Quintero, obviously one of their biggest losses. Top scorer, guy who made things happen every time he touched the ball. Honorable mention, Vito Manone, goalkeeper of the year last year. Um, Obviously going to be tough to lose, but the reason he wasn't my biggest loss is because they brought in their biggest addition, Tyler Miller. Great pickup, easy to replace. Shouldn't see any drop off at that point. I think they're two in the same, and I think you'll see very little drop off, if any, from Manone to Miller.
Yeah. I had Darwin as well. Obviously, my love for that man is well known at this point.
Knows no bounds.
2 weeks into the podcast, I've spoken about him many times. Um, but the biggest addition I said was Luis Maria. I think like a young striker coming up, combining with Mason Toy, that could be an interesting partnership if they can get them going.
You're sold on Mason Toy. I don't think he's gonna. If they play the same way they did last year, I don't. I think they go to a one striker formation with this Amaria guy.
I saw Mason Toy last year do some things that shouldn't be legal in this league.
All right, all right. Like I said, I'll go with you on that one. I don't know, but that's just me.
There.
Uh, Montreal.
Thierry
Uh,
Henry.
that's my biggest
God,
in is Thierry Henry.
how did he do at
Um,
Monaco?
what's that?
How did he do managing Monaco?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, listen, this is a different league with a lot different expectations, and the good thing for him is he doesn't have to play because Montreal's all turf, and he doesn't play on turf. So,
Facts.
but no, I think if we're going player wise, Kyoto is probably one of their biggest in. Um, they just need a striker, man. They've needed a striker forever. Hopefully, Kyoto's that guy. But um, Piatti is their biggest out. Obviously, nobody needs to talk about why. If you know Montreal soccer, you know Ignacio Piatti.
True. Honorable mention to Zachariah Diallo. Again, I don't know why he left. I mean, I do know why he left, but I think he was arguably their best center back by a mile last season.
That's right. I forgot he's gone. So because he left before the season ended, right?
Yeah, he was a
Yeah,
monster.
yeah, that's right.
Consistently in my fantasy team, week in, week out, did the
Oh yeah.
job, and I'm very disappointed. I will have to find my new replacement this season.
Oh yeah. No,
But I
I'm
think having they have three center backs on their roster currently, and losing him, I think Evan Bush is going to be busy.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's gonna be weird when fantasy comes around because you're gonna have three players that you're never gonna take out of your team. One's gonna be a defender, one's gonna be Carlos Vela, the other one's gonna be Alex Mouille. So it's gonna be weird how you fit a team around that.
Didn't we say you're captaining him every week this year?
Triple captain. I hope they drop a triple captain in there because he will be my
Yeah,
triple captain every week.
that's why you lost to me last year.
Shut up. New England again, one that doesn't jump out at me as a lot of big losses. Again, with a team like that, um, that doesn't shock me. You could say something like Anibaba or Mancien, or Castillo, any of those guys on the back line. Replacing a defender is not as easy as replacing a midfielder or a striker. Um, so that being said, any one of those guys maybe, but again, nobody jumps off as like I can't believe they let Julian Gressel go. They don't have anybody that caliber. And Buxa, their DP forward, again, Teal Bunbury can score 13 goals a season, but if he scores them all within a 3 game span and then doesn't do anything for the rest of the year, that doesn't help. So, um, I think he will be the big difference maker for them up top. Um, and again, I hope he falls flat. But the one thing I'm scared of with this team is Bruce Arena. I don't care about any player. Any team under Bruce Arena is terrifying.
I don't know. One of my favorite players in the league, just because of his fan chant, not blue, not green, somewhere in between, Teal Bunbury. Um, it just puts a smile on my face every time I sing it.
Yeah,
But Brandon Setsanovic from SKC, I think, sneaky little addition to their back line. I think
I thought
not.
about it. He's
Yeah,
old. He's old.
I know. Their whole back line is old.
I know.
Most of their starters are 28 and over.
Hmm.
But yeah, they haven't done much, and I have no reaction when I think about the Revolution.
Yep. And I think that's what makes them kind of scary is because you don't look at them as some team that you should be afraid of. Um, they might quietly be very good.
I mean, they'll beat us 1-0 at home again, like they
Yep.
always do.
And it'll be a
And then,
rainy day.
yep, and then they'll
Yep.
get smacked like 10-0 to Houston because Darwin's gonna have 6 goals that game.
All right. Moving on. NYCFC. Once again, another team that didn't lose a ton. Biggest loss, maybe Ben Sweat, but he didn't even play that much last year. Um, so I don't see it as a huge deal. Biggest in, their new head coach, maybe. Again, they don't have a lot of transfers in either, but that new head coach is really energetic, and I'll let Kasman talk about this in a little bit. But if we're talking player wise, they signed another dude whose name you can't pronounce, so maybe he'll hit big, like Tinnerholm, Matricu, or Afori, or however those other guys that nobody knew and nobody knew existed. Maybe he'll be another one like that. I don't know. Um, so we'll see.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, it's an interesting year because I mean, all our big transfers I felt like were last year after Villa left. It just felt like a change, and now I mean, changing coaches every year is not obviously an ideal thing. We did bring Keenan Parks in on a permanent transfer, which I mean, he is 22 years old still, which just sounds weird considering he was on Benfica and coming back on loan and now transferring. Also bringing in Zelalim from Kansas City, which I mean, he was an Arsenal prospect.
Yeah,
yeah,
Like,
that's the
yeah.
weirdest. How the hell he ended up here is
and I remember even like
beyond me.
when we were trying to get him to sign or to get capped for the U.S. and choose U.S. over Germany, like it seemed like a huge thing, and all of a sudden, I don't know what fully happened in his career. Um, Gary Mackay-Steven did play for our coach
Mhm.
with Celtic, so like, and Mackay-Steven looked good last year whenever he came off the bench, but like what NYC kind of does every single year is we just buy attacking wingers, and there's like where can you put them all, and how many can
There,
actually put? And it's like
there. Go ahead.
there's only so much you could do with it, like five attacking wingers when you want to play two of them. Like I mean, we don't even like I wouldn't even say Abear is like a true striker,
Yeah,
which is weird. I mean, I guess Vio is never a true striker either, but um, yeah, I would try to pronounce the new Norwegian guy's name, but I have no idea how to even try.
there's so many marks on that name.
Yeah, it's
Um,
tough. It's tough to play with wingers when your field is 6 feet long.
I was just about to say, if
yet,
you want to know where to put them, you just drop them in the middle of the field, and that's all they can do is play in the
y-
middle. So
I mean, they do have one of the best home records over the past couple of years, so
I wonder why.
eh, I mean, it works. But I like Ben Sweat is the biggest loss because you would assume then Moderita would be your starting left back unless they go to more three in the back with Sands being healthy and Ring and everyone. But like Sweat did was at least a true left back, and you would have allowed him on the left and Tinnerholm on the right. Matarrita, I mean, there was times they literally subbed him in as a winger.
Yeah,
So it's like, do you fully trust Matarrita to be a left back? Especially he was the one that had the dumb tackle in our playoff game.
Yeah.
So it's like I wish I like Sweat more than Matarrita in the left back. I mean, Thursday's Sweat just seemed lost, but I don't trust Matarrita either necessarily in the back.
yeah. No, like I said, I was watching a clip from MLS of the top, or not from MLS. It was like a different like sports show. It was the top 10 worst defensive plays of 2019 MLS. I think five or six of them were NYCFC just bombing it.
Yeah, I mean,
So they need transfer. They need them bad.
I mean, our defense has never been great. Like, I think I've gone to probably close to probably 20 to 30 home games over since NYC started. And like I think I've maybe seen them have a shutout once or twice at home, which I mean it's entertaining soccer, but like it's not good.
Yeah. Well, you can say that about a lot of teams in this league, right? No, you have fun, but it's not European quality.
No,
But
and
I'm starting the petition to bring back Josh Saunders.
uh,
amen.
I veto that so
I
much.
will sign that with every pen I own.
I
Bring
will
bring him back.
I will literally drive him as far away as possible.
Bro, he was whenever the Derby came around, he was one of the Red Bull's best players.
You're right, because
Exactly.
BWP would head the ball in and he would dive after the ball when it was already in the back of the net.
Yeah, he did. Um,
Oh, he was awful.
yeah, but listen, like it's hard to keep clean sheets when you have the ball bouncing off a second base into the net. So,
True.
uh,
I
but
mean,
anyways,
at least they sell out their games.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
All right,
wrong.
so Adam, you wanna put a? I don't know if you've talked about transfers here yet.
Oh, I agree. I mean, Ben Sweat, and I said Gary Mackay-Stevens. I think he does much better away from home when he's got a little bit more room to take
Space.
people on. Yeah, he's got more space to take people on 1v1. Um, Throwing way back to when he was on, I want to say Aberdeen,
Yeah,
with there was the one FIFA combination I used to play with him and Nadir Sifchi, both 5-star skills, and you would just abuse people.
yeah,
So I think when he gets the space, now that he's a little bit more settled in this team, obviously bringing in the coach that he had in Scotland will certainly help him, and I think he get the best out of him this season.
It's going to be interesting what formation they actually settle on playing.
Will he have, what, 9 DMs on roster at some point?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like how many? It's literally DMs and wingers. That's the team.
yeah.
And then you kind of you have two center backs, but then you have Tinnerholm, but like Tinnerholm doesn't fit necessarily in a three back.
He's a
Too
better
busy,
wide midfielder in a three back.
Yeah,
too
so
busy scoring bangers.
so
Oh,
it's almost like you play a 5-2-3 in a way,
Yeah.
yeah.
which
I think that's the way they played it last year, right?
yeah, but
They
it's
just
also like
let a Forey and
but Afori's also gone.
or not a Forey. They let Maxi and Keaton Parks just kind of play in the middle
Yeah,
and just kind of said, all right, go bomb forward and listen, you only have to run 4 steps to get back to half, so you're good.
and it's a matter though if Maxi could keep what he's doing because I mean there's times that he tried playing like the Villa laziness and then work hard every once in a while,
Yeah,
and but he's not the same player as David Villa. I mean, it's what Henri used to do also.
True.
When
yeah,
they would
yeah,
try, but Maxi is getting older, and who knows if he could keep doing it.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. So moving on, we're gonna skip over Red Bull because I don't think they've done anything. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I wish we could skip over Red Bull. I
They've
wish
they've
we
done
didn't
too
have to
many
talk about.
things.
Oh my God, I wish we didn't have to talk about all the players that we just let go. Um, I'm going to start with additions because it makes me feel happy. Um, I'm real happy we brought back Josh Sims. I told Adam this already, but I think he's going to have a real good year. Um, I think he was starting to get comfortable by the end of the season last year. I think I think he starts over Alex, which hurts me to say. It does.
That's strike
Um,
one.
I know it is, but it's okay because I got two more left. But No, I think he comes in and he brings a different level that we haven't seen in a little bit. Just with technical. I think the last real technical player we had was the absolute Argentinian legend Gonzalo Verón,
Mm.
and I think he'll bring a little bit of that, but with more, I guess, more intention to go forward. I don't really know what Verón was doing half the time. He worked hard and he was a great sub, but when he started, he was just kind of out there. So I'm happy he came back. Another year opposite Royer is going to do him real well, and I'm excited to see what he can do. Um, Biggest loss, everybody.
Take your pick.
Yeah, right. I think
Ooh, can I name mine?
Go ahead.
Connor Lade.
Ah, R.I.P. Connor Lade.
I don't know why. I always just loved Connor Lade, maybe because he
Because
was
he's awesome. Because he's
all
tiny. He didn't
five
care.
foot, all 5'5" of him, just going into
Exactly.
tackles.
Connor Lade was like me playing outside back in over 40s, except he was good. 5'6", just kicking people, doesn't care. Um, I think biggest loss, Kamar Lawrence,
Yeah,
obviously,
agreed.
best left back in the league, maybe in league history. I don't know. I haven't watched before 10 years ago, but I find it hard to believe there was any left back before 10 years ago that was any better than him. This
Demarcus?
maybe, but he was overseas for the most part, right?
True.
Yeah. So it's going to be hard to replace him on the field, and I think we're just going to miss his I don't give a crap attitude. Um, Putting the Alba on the ground and then rocking the baby celebration after we won. That type of stuff is stuff you don't really replace. So I'm hoping the new guy, Edgabo, is all right. Tolkien or Segrist, the two, the homegrown and the draft pick, either one of them I've heard is having a very good preseason. So um, I'm hoping they come in and do really well. But obviously, losing Kamar is going to be really, really hard.
There's so many losses to this
I
team.
know.
See, I specifically wrote Kamar Lawrence, but in brackets I put because Andrew will say Luis Robles, and you disappointed me.
I know. So I had Robles the entire time until Kamar went official, and I was like, "Listen, I love Louis, but we have a replacement for him. We actually now have two
We have
replacements if one
two.
doesn't work. Kamar, we've got nobody. And
We have Reese Buckmaster. I don't know what you're
no,
talking about.
don't. All right, adding that to the strike list. Saying anything about Reese Buckmaster is a strike.
I'll take it.
um, but yeah, so obviously it's gonna be hard to replace him, and yeah, that's not gonna be fun.
What do we do in a few weeks when Aaron Long leaves?
Oh, don't. No, I'm not talking about that right now. Roy
Do it.
Boateng.
Do
Roy
it.
Boateng.
I mean, look at the starters we've gotten rid of in the last 2 years.
I
And
can't. I
then
don't want to. I'm gonna
look at
cry.
and then look at who we brought in to be their direct replacement.
I can't. I can't do this right now. I'm gonna start crying.
I,
We could
I
talk about this in the Eastern Conference predictions next week, but right now we should
It,
talk about Orlando, who's gonna be
wait,
awful, and that's gonna make me. Oh, go ahead.
is this like the least excited you guys have been for a Red Bull season?
by
100%.
far. Why do you
Yeah.
think I'm on the Miami and Colorado bandwagon?
I mean,
I'm
I
gonna
kind of
buy a
figured
Louis
that, but
scarf.
Adam, Miami like fits you with the colors, and I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, I do like the pink and black. You're right.
But I mean, in recent history, I mean, seems like the
This,
it's also the weirdest thing not going to see BWP, Robles, Lauren. Like
yeah.
that's been the team for the last what
So
10 years.
Mike Grella posted a picture on Instagram
Oh
of
no.
I think it was Andrew, look away. I think
Oh,
it was Robles, Grella, Damian Paranel, Connor Lade, Bradley Wright Phillips,
Zubar was in there.
Ronald Zubar was in there, and the only caption was the end of an era. I mean, there's no one left from arguably the most successful season
It's
that
like
the Red Bulls had yet. I mean,
it's like looking at that Chelsea team for the Champions League when they won,
Yeah.
and now looking back and they're all gone.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Uh,
this Red Bulls team actually was like good. If you look at that Chelsea team, it was just a weird. I mean,
Hey,
Joseph Sengwa, Ryan Bertrand started as a 17-year-old.
it's not weird if it works.
Granted, but yes, this is by far. Andrew and I said the other day, if relegation was an option, I think we would be down there.
I don't know. I don't know why you're throwing my name in there. We're gonna be a top five in the East.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Let's talk about teams that are really gonna be bad. Orlando. Yes. Good. They're
True.
gonna beat us 4-3 away because that's just what
As
happens.
always.
But
Yep.
it's okay. It's all right. Biggest addition. Adam, I'm stealing this one from you. I already know who yours is, but
Of
uh,
course you do.
Big boy DK is easily their biggest addition.
Yeah.
Um, this guy was a last minute addition to the super draft, and he messed up everybody's mock draft. Nobody saw it coming, and he went fifth off the board. People saying he was a steal at five. I thought he was going to go top three, and that he was one of the most pro ready guys in the draft. He's going to have to put up Robinson Rookie of the Year numbers to bring this team anywhere close to being decent. Biggest loss, again, anybody leaving Orlando can't be really seen as bad because they were awful. But
What
losing
about
Christian Aguita
Sasha?
is. Um, did he even play last year?
Occasionally.
Exactly. Um, Iguita, Christian Iguita is going to be probably their biggest one. Little engine in the midfield, kind of just hit a bunch of people. Somebody you don't want to lose. But yeah, so I'm sure they'll be. I can't imagine them being any worse, but I think they'll be all right. Maybe not playoffs, but you know, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, so you called it. I had big Daryl as my big in. At 6'1", I mean, especially when Dom Dwargo's missing, I think this kid is going to be just terrifying going to defenders.
How long until Dwyer becomes irrelevant?
2 weeks.
Yeah, wow, that's bold. I was gonna say one.
Oh, all right. I mean, fun fact, and I told Andrew this off air. His cousin is one of my favorite all-time strikers, just FIFA reasons. Kasman, I don't know if you know this, but does the name Emmanuel Emenike ring any bells?
Oh my God.
They are cousins, and they are built the same way.
Are they the
Really?
same type of player?
I assume so.
I could only imagine, right?
Yeah.
Imagine them just going 1v1 like at family gatherings.
Dude, the world would explode.
Exactly.
I forgot all about Emenike.
Yeah, they are related, and I am rookie of the year easily, but I'm very excited to see this guy play.
All right, we are running long on time. We have one,
What?
two, three, four, five, six, seven. We have eight more teams to go and CONCACAF Champions League. So we are going to get a move on this one. Philadelphia, biggest loss. Aaron Trusty, we talked about it a little bit before. Young, promising center back. Um, and that means they're now, unless they signed somebody since I last looked at this, which I don't think they have. Quick check. They have not. That guy might be. But they technically officially only have three center backs on roster unless um, Glesnes. They just signed somebody on the 31st of January. If he's a center back, that means they have four. But you technically have three center backs on roster. One of them is Aurelian Collin. That should scare you because Aurelian Collin's like 90 years old.
So he,
Um,
so he is a center back.
yes.
Um, but I like the way their back four looks. I think with Wagner, Gaddis, Big Jack Elliott, and now Jacob Glesnes to take Aaron Trusty's spot, and then Andre Blake. Um, I think that backfires pretty good.
No, no, yeah. So I'm saying on paper it looks good. Jack Elliott goes down, torn ACL, done for the year. You
How
now
dare
bring
you?
in you now bring in somebody from the bench, and your only backup center back is Aurelian Collin.
Fair.
If that doesn't terrify you as a not terrify you, but if that doesn't make you a little worried as a Philadelphia supporter, that maybe it should. And then the biggest addition, Oravec, this defensive mid that they brought in, um, is going to be the six that they've been kind of waiting for. They had Medunjanin, who was an eight playing six, so he was a ball winner, pass sprayer, but he wasn't a true six. This Oravec guy, I'm hoping fills that role and can also play more with the ball than a true six does. So um, again, when I say hoping, I don't actually mean hoping. I hope he flops. I hope every transfer they brought in flops. But from a neutral standpoint, then that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. So I said Jamie Montero, bringing him in permanently. I think him with the combination of Orvac, I think, does the job that Medunjanin had done last season. I think the two of them combined can fill that hole, and then just let Brandon Aronson ahead of them just run free and run wild.
Complete side note: Brandon Aronson is going to have a great year this year.
Agreed.
They're finally going to let him go. He's going to be like a lesser skilled Amir Fernandez.
God.
Hmm.
All right, Chasm, take it away.
Go ahead.
Portland Timbers. Similar in a way to NYC. Like there isn't like a huge amount of change. Like when it comes to like losses, I mean, I guess you could talk about Fernandez, but like Fernandez, I felt like he was good for like 5, 10 games, and he just disappeared and wasn't anything. Um, Milano is again gone with his weirdest came left. Like
I don't know what happened with that guy.
I don't get it. It's not like he's in a big city market where like it's the pressure. Like yes, Portland is Soccer City, USA, but like still, I don't get it. There's two big signings when you break it down. You have the first, Yimi Chara, brothers of
Yes.
Diego, which
Yes.
I'm going to get so confused with both of them on the field because they look exactly the same.
So I called it already. I will pick the wrong one for fantasy at least once this year. So 9 times out of 10, I'm probably just gonna stay away from them and pick another Portland player if I have to.
That's
Because
definitely
I
fair.
will pick the wrong way and then get very angry.
That's definitely fair. The second one, I mean, they signed him like, what was it, 2 weeks ago? And I'm still not even fully sure to say his name. Niaz Goda or.
Yeah,
Uh,
Yeah.
let's go with that.
it's going to be interesting their attack because you're assuming Valeri towards the end of last year, and you saw like he isn't the same player he was like his MVP year,
Right.
and he is the Timbers when you break it down at the end of the day. So it's a matter of will those two signings plus Valeri and Blanco and will Jeremy Abobasi take another step forward?
I hope
Um,
so.
I really hope so. It's just a matter of can this team hold on? I mean, at the same time, your rivals are the MLS champions,
Yeah.
And look very good.
and
They
like,
look really good.
and they're not stopping. So it's like, did I don't know if Chara and Niazgoda were enough to try to compete. I mean, at the same time, this team was in the MLS Cup 2 years ago.
Yeah.
True.
Yes, they were an underdog, and in reality, didn't stand a chance against Atlanta. But it's a matter of are we doing enough to get over that hump, or are we just going to stay that mediocre team that will get in the playoffs and not really go much further?
So
I
the
think
Red
you guys will
Bulls.
be solid. Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys should be fairly solid again this year.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's in my opinion, like if you were to put us up against Seattle, like there's no way.
Oh no.
I mean, yeah, a 1 game playoff, you don't know anything could happen, but like at the same time, I don't know if this was enough.
Yeah. I mean, the only out was Zarek Valentine to Nashville, and again, you brought in Yemi Chara, so like that's not a loss. If anything, that's a gain.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, not much has changed, but it's just is it enough to try to compete again?
Yeah. Like I said, my the only addition nobody's really talked about is Felipe Mora from Pumas.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a better year than Niaz Goda just because he knows this style of play a little better. When you come from Europe, you see that a lot of the times when you come from Europe, it takes a long time to adjust to this style of play. It's a lot different. Coming from Mexico, it's a lot easier to. I mean, you saw Fernandez do it. Fernandez did the same way. And I think it'll be a lot easier for Mora to um, transition. So I think he'll have a better year than Niaz Goda. But that's just my personal thing. And then yeah, like I said, Brian Fernandez was my biggest loss, and it's too bad that the contract had to be terminated. But like I said, if it had to, it had to, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point on Mora. I mean, even with I mean, the language barrier just coming into it. I mean, most of the team is from Latin American countries or South American countries, so adding a Polish guy to the mix may take him a little bit longer to be able to understand the play and everything going on. So it'll be interesting to see what how Gio sets his team up.
Oh yeah. RSL, biggest loss. Very easy.
Joe Plata.
Okay, maybe not that easy.
You were gonna say Nick Romando.
You're dang right I was. Anytime you lose a legend like that, it's definitely going to be difficult. Um, just to go back to some sort of normalcy. It's like losing Luis Robles from Red Bull, right? You're so used to seeing the same guy between the sticks day after day after day, um, that it'll be tough. I think Ja Plata and Saucedo also were two shouts, as well as Brooks Lennon. But I think it was clear that without Ramondo, they're going to be. It'll just be different. It'll be time something that they need to change. Zach McMath will do fine though. So their biggest addition, Zach McMath, see above.
Interesting. I said Jason Ramirez.
Okay.
I think I'm always a little biased. I see South American pacey winger likes to take people on, and I get excited. I think him coming in at 18, he made his debut at 16. He's already played 50 plus games. I mean, that's insane coming into this league at such a young
Yeah.
age, having
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of experience under your belt. Um, but again, like we said, they lost João Plata, they lost Salcedo, they lost Savarino. He's going to have to link up with Corey Baird and Albert Rusnak very quickly in order to do anything.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
But
San
it's
Jose.
fine. They're finishing fourth behind Colorado, so it doesn't matter.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Yeah. Moving on. San Jose. Um, addition didn't do a lot of additions. Tanner Beeson as a super draft pick is going to be might slide directly in to the back line that was all right, not great last year. Um, out of Stanford, they just produce soccer talent like it's nothing. Um, but if the best business you're going to do is a super draft pick after just missing out on the playoffs last year while everybody else is getting better, I mean, if I'm a fan of San Jose, I'm asking where the motivation is outside of my or out of my club. It's similar to Red Bull, right? Like if you're not going out and making changes that are going to make you competitive again, then you should be angry.
Yeah, I mean, I have that word for word in front of me on my notes. I mean, 4 points off playoffs. If you don't do anything, you're only going backwards. It's
Yep.
not as if they were, lighting games up last year where they had a core of younger guys that, they could build off of. They only need, one, two more additions, and they would have been a solid mid-table, lower seeded playoff team.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, honorable mention: Emmanuel Ochoa, 15-year-old goalkeeper, who's like 6'4".
Yeah, that's insane.
That's absurd. I saw that in school when they signed him, and I was like, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Um, Godoy is probably one of their bigger losses, and we talked about it with Nashville a little bit. He's a good ball winner, good passer, somebody that they'll definitely miss in the midfield. Other than that, they didn't really lose a ton.
Yeah.
Lots of defenders, but I don't think a lot of those defenders even played much, so not worried.
Yeah.
Um,
Seattle,
yeah, Seattle, best team in Cascadia.
by
Ugh.
far. By far.
Um,
Well,
biggest in,
technically best team in MLS, but,
fair, fair. Biggest in, this guy, João Paulo, the center defensive mid, is supposed to be Ozzy Alonso 2.0. True ball winning enforcer, center defensive mid, ready to be the next Ozzy. And we all know how much Seattle loved Ozzy, so I'm hoping he can fill those shoes. Biggest loss, Brad Smith, um, a really good outside back Seattle hasn't seen since DeAndre Yedlin. Got forward really well, really good defensively. Loan ended, but it would have been cool to see if they could turn that into something permanent. Kim Keehee, maybe. Um, and then Victor Rodriguez is obviously a shout as well, but those are my choices.
Yeah, I said Ramon Torres, but again, I think Xavier Arriaga comes in, and
Mhm.
if anything, that's a more of a gain than a loss. They also brought in, I don't even want to try to say his first name, Yamar Andrade,
Yep,
as
Yamar
well as
Gomez Andrade.
yeah, as a backup center back. But
Or a starter. He could slide in and start.
yeah, I think their biggest concern, rather than bringing in a big name, is just keeping everybody healthy. If Jordan Morris, Raul Ruiz stay healthy, I think they're fine.
Yeah, no, for sure. Not much to talk about. Kaz, any thoughts on that?
No, I mean I would be shocked if they don't, if it's not them or LAFC again at top of the West.
Colorado.
I would say
I'm gonna keep
Colorado and the
saying it until it
Loons.
happens.
Colorado and the Loons for Western Conference Final. Um, Kansas City. Man, who could their biggest addition be? I have no idea.
For the man who's gonna score 25 plus goals this season,
I actually,
as
before you said that last week, I had taken these notes down and I said at least 18. So, um, Alan Polito, biggest addition. Um,
absolutely.
we talked about it last week. We're not going to go into it again because we're running low on time. Um, Christian Nemeth, um, really wanted to see him come back to Kansas City and be a spark, and make KC a dominant supporter shield winner like I wanted them to be, so I didn't look like an idiot. But that didn't work. He only scored 8 goals in a really disappointing return to Kansas City. So that's one of their bigger losses, just because he was supposed to be so good. And everybody else I see, Benny, because he didn't do too much on his second spell here. Sestanovic, he's been there forever.
The
Everybody
re-
else really didn't play too much.
the return of Kyrie Shelton.
Oh God.
God.
Can't stand that man.
He was supposed to be so good when he came in.
I
Yeah,
remember that.
he had all the Adidas deals and everything.
I
Yep.
know. And
Wasn't
then
he? Didn't you spend a ton of money to get that pick? Or no, that was
Uh,
Lewis. You spent 250,000 to get Lewis.
yeah, I mean you look at our first couple picks. You have Shelton, Lewis, and Jack Harrison, Jack Flash.
Yeah.
Jack did well.
Yeah, Jack did, but Shelton, I mean, I
Did
don't,
nothing.
I don't know what happened or what. He just didn't pan out at
That
all.
was that was your strike force, right? It was two up top with him and Villa.
Yeah, basically.
Oh
But then they tried moving him out wide. It was weird.
yeah, you guys are not good those first couple seasons.
No, not at all.
Did we just got a new subscriber to the Designated Players Podcast YouTube channel. Welcome, Nico. Thanks for subscribing. Um, yeah, no, I agree. I think Kansas City will be better. I um, don't know if it'll be enough, but I think they'll be better. And by enough I mean MLS Cup, U.S. Open Cup, win something. I don't know if they've done enough to win something, but they're going to be playoff bound for sure. Toronto, biggest addition, the only one that's not a homegrown signing. Pablo Piatti joined from RCD Espanyol, maybe. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
yep, cool. The only non-homegrown there, so by default, he's the biggest signing. Um, will he make a big impact? I don't know.
I mean, you're forgetting about MLS long-term veteran Patrick Mullins.
Patrick Mullins. Can I tell a quick story about Patrick Mullins?
Go
If
ahead.
if Patrick Mullins is the answer, I don't know what the question was.
So Patrick Mullins was on the original NYCFC team, and so first game ever at Yankee Stadium. So playing the Revolution, and Mullins scores. And at NYC games, when someone scores, like the announcer will say the first name, and they expect everyone else to like say the last name. So for a while, just like David, and then everyone in the crowd go Via. But no one knew this the first game ever at home. So the announcer only announced him as Patrick, and no one knew to chime in with Mullins.
Patrick Villa.
So like everyone was just so confused because no one really knew who he was in the first place. So to everyone when he was on NYC, he was just Patrick.
So how do they do it for a bear then? Does he just go goal scorer A and then they go bear?
To be honest, I haven't been to a home game since Abear's been on the team, so I am not sure.
Well, that's your fault for moving to Virginia.
I mean, I've lived in Virginia as long as NYC's been a team.
Yeah, so then it's just your fault.
Touche. I don't think Mama Kaz will agree with that. She wants me to stay down here, so
Oh, I would too, bro. The cost of living down there is great, but we're not doing a real estate podcast here.
nope.
So, anyways,
Sorry.
um,
Quick Patrick story.
that's on me. I got to that point. Biggest loss, Drew Moore. Drew Moore was always a big guy. He was a center back that was important for their run to the title, and everybody else that left were really role players. Jay Chapman doesn't do anything for me. We talked about that for Miami last week. Whatever. Benazet was here for like 2 months, so that's not really a huge loss. Um, so yeah, I think Drew Moore is probably the biggest one out of that lot.
Where did Drew Moore and Benazet end up?
Drew Moore ended to Colorado.
And what about Nico Benazet?
Did he go to Colorado too?
He did.
Oh God.
Had to be done.
Um, all right, yeah. So to avoid anything else, we'll go to Vancouver for the last team before we talk about who won the transfer market, your favorite signing, and I believe those are the only two questions I have for that. We'll do question of the day with John here, and then we're gonna cut it. We'll call that an episode because this took way longer than we thought. And then I think we'll go ahead and go on Monday. We'll go ahead and talk about CONCACAF Champions League predictions. So to avoid this being a 3-hour podcast, we are not Joe Rogan, so that is not happening today. We'll end it right around here. So talking about Vancouver, you look at the MLS transactions report and they basically just flip their entire team. Lots of loan endings. Biggest loss for me was probably Daniil Henry. Again, another fantasy guy that just stuck in there. Shout out, honorable mention, PC. Great switcheroo player. Always came in clutch for us when we needed to do a nice little switcheroo. But yeah, definitely Henry was one of the bigger losses. And I think the biggest addition is Lucas Cavallini. Obviously, they need, again, another team that's just needed a striker forever. Um, do not give me Jordi Reyna as the best striker on that team. I will punch you, Adam. Uh,
Never mind.
um,
I retract what I was about to say then.
Good man. But yeah, so he's going to come in and hopefully he can be the guy that they're looking for, linking up with Freddie Montero, Inbom, create this really scary three-player attack in Canada and take back what they kind of been working for a long time now.
Yeah. So, not necessarily the biggest loss. I obviously had Cavallini as the biggest incoming.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I think Cavallini and Reyna equal goals. I think if the two of them can connect, that could be good. The issue is everyone behind them is horrendous. Yes, I like Inbom. Yes, I like a couple other players, but they lost Felipe. They lost Lucas Venuto. I, I mean, they finished last this past season. They can only do better.
Yeah.
But I mean, just looking at them at this point, I don't think they will. I mean, I'll take Jordi Reyna on the Red Bulls every day of the week.
Yeah, I know you will, but I don't know where he would play over Brian White, Tom Barlow, and Alex Mawil.
He would play up top.
All right. But yeah, they did a full flip basically. They had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different transfers in, not including draft picks and homegrowns. And they lost 4, 7, 8, 12 different players, some of them who played significant minutes. So lots of turnover, lots of new faces. It'll take time for them to get going, and I don't know. I don't know if playoffs is viable for them, but it will definitely be interesting to say the least.
think they won something like 8 games last season. So only Cincinnati had a worse record. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not necessarily the stat you want being an established team versus a first year MLS team.
that's right. Um, so I'll ask it to all of you: who won the transfer market, or who won the transfer window up to this point?
I mean, my answer is obvious.
Really, Adam? Who?
Gee, I wonder. I'm gonna stick with Colorado. I think the moves they brought in. Again, I've spoken at length about this, and I'm sure our listeners are very tired of me going on and on about them. But I think bringing in Aaron Trusty just solidifies that back line. I love the way their defense is shaping up. Bringing in Nico Benezet and their new DP in Namli, I think going forward now they look very solid. I think their midfield looks good with Acosta and Jack Price. I think this is now a complete team, if not one player away from a complete team.
Hmm.
Okay, Kaz.
I think I'm going to look at it from a team that could possibly get back to the playoffs quickly. Columbus, with adding, however you say they got Zellerian and
Zella Ryan.
yeah, him and Nagby. Like the East, I mean, there's plenty. I feel like there's so much in the East that could change from last year's playoffs to this year. That like with like we kept talking before about the Red Bulls and like can DC United keep it up? Can Philly? I mean, Philly was at the top all year, but can they like keep the pressure up? Um, I just love Nagme. I think possibly they can just jump into a playoff spot.
Yeah,
So other than Atlanta, every other playoff spot is potentially up for grabs.
and
A-
that's the greatest thing about
And
the East.
NYC.
Stop it.
I'm still gonna go with only Atlanta.
That's the greatest thing about the East, in particularly. I mean, the league in general, but the East particularly was so open last year that anything could happen this year because of anything. A lot of it is up in the air, and Red Bull could finish last, and it wouldn't shock anybody. Red Bull could finish second, and it wouldn't shock me.
I would be shocked.
Um, but listen, there's a ton of wiggle room here, and I'm just excited to see where it goes. Um, for me, I agree with Kaz. I think Columbus had a great signing. They didn't lose a ton, um, and they made really, really good signings specific to their needs, and that's the big thing for me. You look at Vancouver, for example. They signed a ton of players, but think about what they needed. Did they bring in exactly who they wanted? Um, and I think Columbus did a great job of picking up an attacking midfielder, a wide midfielder, a center mid that really can change the game. Um, I think Columbus got it right, which pains me to say. Um,
And they have Golden Boot winner up top. So
that they do.
Hmm.
Favorite signing?
oh god, there's so many.
Yeah. Or let me ask you this way: favorite signing, and why is it David Jensen for Red Bull?
It's not. It will never be. Favorite signing. Um, I don't know. The one that sticks out is Walker Zimmerman,
Uh huh.
but I don't know how well Nashville are going to do. So
Interesting.
it's tough for me to say, oh, that was a good move for him, because obviously going from a team that was lights out last season in LA to a relatively unknown in Nashville. I mean, yes, I assume he was brought in to be the immediate starter, the immediate kind of like experienced guy behind Dax, but I I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a upward move for him.
Interesting. Kaz?
Um, from an entertainment standpoint, I'm gonna go Chicharito. I think it's gonna be interesting with just demographics in LA. Hopefully, I mean, El Tráfico has been great so far, but I mean, the Mexican outlets now with being able to put just Vela versus Chicharito up top as the main focal point instead of Zlatan. I mean, everyone loves Zlatan, but I'm hoping Chicharito can bring. Soccer's more exciting when the Galaxy is like good.
Yeah,
They've been good our entire lives for the most part. So like, I'm hoping it'll be a little bit more team focused instead of Zlatan focused, and it'll add more to the rivalry because of the whole Mexican connection in LA.
yeah.
So
I
do you,
actually,
oh, go ahead.
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say I saw something the other day that said something like the top out of the top 10 most expensive Mexican players, four of them play in the U.S. and only one plays in Mexico. So that being said, we're already drawing tons of Mexican support into the league right now just to watch them, which is only good for the league, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I was gonna ask. So since Chicharito went to the Galaxy, I spoke about this last week. How LAFC, yes, they now have brought in Bradley Wright Phillips to come in and be that striker, especially with Diomande out injured. I think they missed out on getting Chicharito, assuming that was a possibility. Um, I think Vela and Chicharito up top. I said this last week. What's the point of us starting this league? I mean,
Yeah.
we might as well just hand them everything now. But do you think it's better in terms of Mexican viewership if they're on separate teams or the same team?
I think separate. I mean, they get to watch more games, more spread, different jerseys. It's overall. I mean, because like, imagine being in New York and just only when LAFC comes you want to watch it if you're a huge fan of the Mexican national team. Now you have two different games to go to.
Right, and it also creates rivalry, right? Like you're looking at somebody who loves Vela versus somebody who loves Chicharito. You're going up and they're saying, "Oh, my guy's better, no, my guy's better." Oh, well, let's watch the game and watch the league, and we'll get into this rivalry, and obviously El Tráfico is something that is always a good time to watch, and that's just going to make people want to watch the league more. You'll start following games, and it just grows it. So yeah, separate teams for sure.
Yeah. That's assuming that most Mexican fans wouldn't just want both teams to do well. I mean, they don't necessarily have a favorite MLS team if they come in and say, "I want both LA teams to do well because both of Mexico's stars ideally are doing well."
Right, something like um, I hope Red Bull Leipzig do well because Tyler Adams there. I don't care for them. I just right something like that.
Right, exactly.
Um, well, yeah, I didn't add my favorite signing in there, but I'm going to take one that Adam I thought was going to go with, and it's Mr. 25 plus,
I yeah, I'm
Alec
looking at my
Polito.
notes right now. I should have said that.
Yeah, Sporting KC, home run. I think he's going to be great. And if he lets me down, I'm never going to talk about Sporting KC for the rest of my life because this will be the second time I hyped him up and the second time they let me down.
He's most likely going to be the first player in my fantasy team when the app loads.
Interesting.
Their first game is away to Vancouver.
That's a tough one.
So
Going to Vancouver's tough, but we'll talk about that on another episode when it finally goes
yes.
live and go that way. So, question of the day.
So question of the day. So there's been a lot of talk about Timmy Chandler, and we spoke about Tyler Adams doing well in the Bundesliga a few minutes ago.
Hmm.
But Timmy Chandler has now 4 goals in his last 4 games.
What?
Yes,
That's
Yeah,
absurd.
it's absurd. Fully agreed. No one in the U.S. remembers Timmy Chandler in recent memory. He seemed to fade into obscurity. But my question is, should he be considered for the U.S. team? And the reason
Oh,
I'm asking is because there's been a lot of talk online, and I won't say who. It's a certain fellow redheaded um, former U.S. men's soccer team member that I don't particularly care for, made the argument that club form has nothing to do with getting picked for your national team.
okay.
So Timmy Chandler lighting up, I say lighting up, but doing very well in the Bundesliga has no bearing on whether someone should get picked for the national team. If you do well, who cares?
So he who shall not be named makes a lot of really bold takes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's spot on with this one.
Indeed.
Um, I think it is important to take into account a lot of different things um, that are going on right now. Tim Chandler's 29 years old, going to be 30 in a month. He plays right back for a team in Germany, which is fine, and he's doing well.
He plays left
Sure,
mid.
he plays left mid in Germany.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
that's
how
why
he.
he's
That's
scoring.
that's that's why he's scoring now. He's reinvented himself as a winger and has been doing very well.
So you're telling me you're going to call in 30-year-old Timmy Chandler to play over Christian Pulisic in
It,
the
he
national team?
he was just the example, and Christian
Oh, oh,
Pulisic.
oh, oh. I
Christian
thought
Pulisic.
we're
It was
okay.
more. No. He was the example. My
Gotcha.
question was more: does club form matter for national team?
I think it depends on what you have currently versus what you're looking at and who you're looking at, right? So if you've got Kyle Beckerman, Michael Bradley, and Will Trapp playing in center midfield,
Ugh.
yeah, and they're failing to qualify for World
Anything.
Cups for anything, and then you go ahead and you say, all right, we need to replace these players. Then you start looking at who are the best three center midfielders that you can pull up right now based on club form. Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, insert third player here who can fluctuate through, right? But you need to find who's playing well at the moment because you need to fix it right away. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if that is the case, then yes, club form definitely matters. But if you're talking about a January camp where you're just trying to get people in, like um, everybody who played in January camp this year, then no, it doesn't matter. You're looking to get experience. You know these players have been touted through the youth national team, the U23s, U21s, U19s, U17s, whatever. Then you're just giving them a chance at the top level and seeing what they can do. Then it doesn't matter. So timing is important, but to me, club form only matters when you need to fix something right away. You know who your starters are, um, and you know so long as they're playing well enough to be a starter on their club team or are the best player at their position, then you don't have to worry about it, right? Serginho Dest versus DeAndre Yedlin, that'll come up to club form, right? Because both of them are young, both of them are pretty much the same player. You just got to see who's playing better at that time.
Does the league matter? So let's say we have two identical strikers. I'll use Bobby Wood and
Ew,
Jesse Zardes.
ew.
Yes, but Jesse Zardes is going to be one of the first names on the World Cup squad, assuming we make it.
Don't remind me.
I agree, but Bobby Wood is younger. Let's say Bobby Wood lights up the Bundesliga from now until World Cup qualifying starts. Let's say, granted he's not in the Bundesliga. I think Hamburg are actually in the second league, but let's say he has 30 goals a season. Well, Zardes has, yes, Connor said 50, but let's say 15 to 20, and is mediocre in terms of play. Do we take a Bobby Wood who's doing it in Germany or foreign league, or a Zardes who we've seen enough of him. We know what we're gonna get, and I mean the three of us aren't impressed. But do we take a Bobby Wood to change something up, especially if he's been lights out leading up to it?
I mean, I think you reward the player that's playing well and you find a spot for him. Or in the case of Chandler, and I mean Pulisic obviously is in front of him, but if something does happen to Pulisic, I mean, majority of our gameplay goes through Pulisic. If something goes, especially playing Mexico, where they're gonna foul him, like you need someone just in case something happens. I would rather have an experienced vet at times over who is in form over at times these young guys. And you said it the best with the whole timing thing. But like when it comes to Bobby Wood versus Zardes, I mean, no matter what, we know Berhalter's taking Zardes.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
He's also taking Will Trapp. It doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
And
Um,
55-year-old Mike Bradley is going to lead our center mid at World Cup 2020 or 2072 in Antarctica, because
yeah, can't wait.
who knows where else these things are going to go. But no,
Um,
totally. I agree 100% in with Kaz there.
so the argument I saw a lot online regarding Timmy Chandler was not that he would take Pulisic's spot, because obviously that's insanity, assuming Pulisic's healthy, because he's been dealing with, I believe, some hamstring stuff at Chelsea the
Yeah,
last couple
it's
of
it's
weeks.
it's those crappy Chelsea trainers over there who don't want to keep anybody healthy.
Yeah, well, we fired our doctor under Mourinho, and that was a whole nother issue.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, but the issue wasn't whether he takes Pulisic's spot, because that's never happening in a million years. The issue was if he takes someone like a Paul Ariola's spot, who isn't exactly lighting up DC United's midfield.
And I think he should.
I agree.
all right.
I get that
Um,
the age thing, but you take
We
the
can't
better.
have, yeah, we can't have a squad of U23s. We need some older guys to lead the ship.
Yeah.
yeah, no, for sure. And I think I think we need to trust what they're doing in there, because there's also the idea that a lot of people don't think of when they're talking about this stuff. There is tons of stuff we don't see when they go into camp, when they go and play for, it's also a system, right? Berhalter's got this absurd system that involves a right back playing center mid at some point, like during the game. I don't know how it works. I don't. But it's a system that he wants to play. If you don't fit that system, you're not playing, period. So that's the other part that we have to keep into consideration.
True. And it makes me, and I'm maybe a little biased because I grew up playing with him, Long Island born, but I don't understand what Tim Parker has to do to get a national team call up. Yes, he's been to camp a few times, but I think he's made maybe one appearance off the bench, and he's been arguably one of the Red Bulls' best players defensively, at least next to Aaron Long, who's a regular in our team.
I mean, it's also like arguing how Jonathan Lewis keeps making the team, yet he's done nothing in MLS.
Exactly.
Right. And again, it's all what does Berhalter feel? And to be honest with you, I think Tim Parker's been more shaky than he's been solid last year. And I think he needs to step it up this year for that fact that he needs to be in that camp, because he does have the talent to do it. He just needs to put it all together. And I think that's something that needs to be taken into account. But again, it's all what Berhalter sees. If Berhalter sees a pacey, tricky winger like Areola or Lewis that is going to be explosive and take on players, even though they haven't shown a lot in league, he'll go with them versus a Timmy Chandler who can play left mid, left wing, but has 4 goals and 4 assists, but isn't that type of player. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the real reason this question was brought up, alongside obviously this a lot of buzz about it online, was that my secret desire is that Aaron Johansson rediscovers form and
Stop it.
makes the World Cup squad.
Oh my
Forgot
God.
about
I
your
don't
obsession with him.
I
Oh,
don't want I don't want
he
to see
was
that
so
man
good.
anywhere near my club or my
He's
country's team.
he's been so unlucky with injury.
Yeah, that's what it is.
He has been. He had some crazy like nerve injury when he was playing in Germany.
Well, did you guys read the Josh Gatt story that came out recently?
Yes,
No.
I did.
Andrew also sent it to you. It was an ESPN story about him trying to come back again after all these things and how close he was and just leading to more injuries. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh man, it's I know that story. Tell me about it. I've dislocated my shoulder so many times, they don't let me play anymore. But
It's Kasman's favorite player growing up is Josh Gatt.
Yeah,
yeah.
he was a great FIFA signing because he had a 99 pace.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's
You'll love to see
rapid.
that. But yeah, I think that answers the question pretty well. Does anybody else have anything else to add?
I don't think so.
All right,
No,
Kaz.
no, thank you for having me on.
All right, cool. So thank you everybody for listening. If you've gotten this far, sorry this got long, quick. Um, this I believe is going out on Friday, or at least the audio version of it. You can listen to the audio version on Spotify, on SoundCloud, not on Buzzsprout this time because we are out of free storage, so that won't go up on there. It'll be on YouTube probably Saturday or over the weekend. just simply because I need a little bit of time to work my magic on that. And then the clips will keep going up day by day. So make sure you subscribe over there so you can take a look at those. But other than that, follow us on Instagram at designated_players_podcast 1. On Twitter at the DP Pod 1. Send us emails, questions, comments, concerns at the